You were the smart one, top of the class, the one teachers pointed to, the kid adults looked at and said would go far someday. You understood things faster than the people around you. You read more, you questioned more, and somewhere along the way, without anyone ever saying it out loud, you picked up a quiet promise. That being intelligent would be enough. That if you were clever and disciplined and right more often than you were wrong, the money would eventually come find you. So let me ask you something. Did it? Because here you are, sharper than most of the people you grew up with. And somehow a lot of them have more than you do. The guy who barely passed runs his own company now. The one everybody called average owns 3 properties. And you, the one with the real mind, the one who actually understood how things worked, you're still doing the math at the end of the month. Still deciding whether you can afford the thing you want. Still waiting for all that intelligence to turn into something you can hold in your hands. That gap, that quiet, humiliating gap between how smart you are and how little it has paid you. That's what this is about. You feel it at specific moments. At a reunion, when the slow one is talking about his second business, late at night, scrolling, watching people you know you're sharper than live lives you can't afford. And in your own head, when the noise dies down and you do the honest accounting, and the numbers just don't match the mind, that feeling isn't a flaw in your character. It's information. It's trying to tell you something nobody ever explained to you. And we're about to drag it into the light. So here's the uncomfortable part. Right at the start, your intelligence is not the solution to this problem. In most cases, it's the cause. That'll irritate some of you. Good. That irritation is exactly what I want, because the men who get defensive here are usually the ones who need this most. You've spent your whole life being told your mind was your greatest asset. Now I'm telling you, it might be the thing holding you in place. Sit with that. The discomfort is where this starts. Here's the lie you were sold. They told you smart people win, that the cream rises, that if you just keep learning, keep being capable, keep being the most able person in the room, the world will notice and reward you for it. It sounds fair. It feels like it should be true, but it isn't. And somewhere underneath, you already know that, because you've watched it not happen for years. Machiavelli figured this out 5 centuries ago, and he figured it out without any comforting illusions. He spent his life studying power, not virtue. And one of the coldest things he ever noticed was that the world doesn't reward what's good, or clever, or deserving. It rewards what's positioned. He watched brilliant men get destroyed and mediocre men get crowned, and he refused to pretend it was an accident. Ability and power, he understood, are 2 completely different things. And confusing the 2 is how capable men get quietly buried. That's the trap underneath all the other traps. You've been treating intelligence like it's the same thing as power. It isn't. Power is leverage, position, control. Intelligence is just raw material. And raw material that never gets built into anything is worth almost nothing. I learned this slowly, expensively. For years I was the smartest broke person I knew. I could out-argue anyone about money. I'd read the books. I understood the concepts cold. I could explain compounding, leverage, market psychology, all of it, better than the people who were actually getting rich off it. And I used all of that for exactly one thing. I used it to feel superior, while I stayed exactly where I was. My intelligence never built me anything. It just handed me sophisticated reasons to stay comfortable. It gave me a beautiful vocabulary for my own paralysis. And that's the cruel part. A dumber man might have just acted, failed, learned, adjusted, but I was too smart for that. I could see every risk, every flaw, every reason a thing might not work. My mind was a machine for producing objections, and every objection felt like wisdom. It wasn't wisdom. It was fear in a good suit, using big words. Now, where does this come from? Because it didn't start with you. Think about what intelligent actually meant for most of your life. It meant getting the right answer, being told what to study, studying it, repeating it back correctly, and being rewarded for that. For 20 years, the smartest thing you could possibly do was follow instructions better than anyone else in the room, and you were good at it. You were the best at it. That's the problem. Best at it. That's the problem. Nobody in all those years ever taught you to build something of your own. They taught you to perform beautifully inside structures other people had already built. The classroom rewards the kid who aces the test, not the kid who asks whether the test means anything. So the most capable people get pulled aside early, told they're special, and quietly shaped into the finest possible operators of machines they will never own. Not out of malice. It's just what large structures need. They need brilliant operators far more than they need rivals. Machiavelli would have seen it instantly. The most useful man is the gifted one, who never thinks to question his own position, because he's too busy being praised for how well he performs inside it. Your intelligence made you valuable to the structure. It never made you free of it. If anything, it bound you tighter, because the structure has every reason in the world to keep its best minds comfortable, flattered, and staring down at their work instead of up at who's collecting on it. So, before we go further, get the frame straight. We're walking through 5 traps, 5 patterns that catch intelligent men and hold them for decades. And here's what makes them so dangerous. The thing you're proudest of doesn't protect you from them. It makes you better at falling in, and far better at justifying it once you have. A dumb man falls in a hole. A smart man falls in the same hole, then writes a brilliant essay on why the hole was the right place to be all along. Pause for a second. Don't skip this. Before I name a single trap, ask yourself one thing. Where in your life have you used your intelligence to explain why you haven't moved? Not to move. To explain why you haven't. Find that one spot in your head. Hold it there. You're going to recognize it in everything that comes next. Most people read a question like that, feel the recognition, and move on without ever actually answering it. Don't be most people. Find the real example. The specific one, because vague agreement is just another way of not looking. Now, let's begin. Trap number 1, the competence trap. This is the first cage, and it's the most respectable one. The one that looks like success while it slowly eats your life. The competence trap is what happens when you get so good at the work that the work itself becomes the thing holding you down. Here's how it runs. You're capable, you're reliable, you solve problems other people can't. So what happens? They hand you more problems. You become the one everybody leans on, the one who gets the call when something breaks, the one who can't take a real holiday because the place falls apart the second he's gone, and you wear it like a medal. You think being indispensable is a kind of security. You think being the best is the road to the top. It isn't. Indispensable is just a nicer word for trapped, because nobody tells the competent man the truth. The market does not pay you for how good you are. It pays you for how hard you are to replace and how much leverage you control. Different things. You can be the most skilled person in the entire building and still be the least powerful, because skill that belongs to somebody else is just expensive labor with your name on it. Think about who actually gets rich inside any company. It's almost never the most brilliant person. The brilliant person is buried in the work, head down, executing, praised, relied on, and paid a sliver of what he generates. The one who gets rich is the one who owns the system. The brilliant person works inside. The owner doesn't have to be smarter. He just has to understand one thing the genius refuses to accept, that doing the work and owning the work are 2 completely separate games. Machiavelli saw this in the courts of his day. Real power rarely sat with the most gifted men. It sat with the ones who understood position. The advisor who made himself essential to a ruler held more genuine control than the brilliant general burning himself out on the battlefield. Proximity to power and ownership of structure beat raw talent every single time. He watched gifted men spend themselves into irrelevance while positioned men collected the rewards. Look at the gap between an operator and an owner. The operator trades his competence for a wage. His income is capped by his hours and his energy, and both of those run out. The owner builds or buys a structure and then lets other people's competence flow through it. Rockefeller wasn't the finest hand at refining oil. He was the finest at controlling the system every barrel had to pass through. He understood that the man who controls the structure captures the value, and the man who performs the labor just survives inside it. Picture the competent man's actual day. He's the first one in, he's the one they slack at 9 at night when something's on fire, and he fixes it every time, because he's the only one who can. He skips the holiday, or takes the laptop with him. He gets the good review, the bump, the warm words about how the place couldn't run without him, and he goes home a little prouder and not 1 inch freer. Multiply that day by a few thousand, and you have his career. All that capacity, all that proof of how good he is, spent dollar by dollar and hour by hour, building a thing with someone else's name on the deed. And here's where being smart makes it worse, exactly like I warned. The better you are at the craft, the deeper this goes, because your competence gets rewarded just enough to keep you loyal to it. The raise, the title, the praise, little hits of validation that keep you executing one more year, and another, and another. You're not being paid what you're worth. You're being paid just enough to never leave. Watch the mechanism. It's almost elegant in how cruel it is. The better you perform, the more responsibility flows to you. The more responsibility you carry, the more essential you become. The more essential you become, the more terrified everyone is to lose you, and the more terrified you become to leave, because by now your whole identity is built on being the one who holds it together. Your competence becomes a set of golden handcuffs. And the strange thing is, you lock them on yourself, then thank them for the fit. Meanwhile, the man who owns the place watches you do it with quiet satisfaction, because a brilliant employee who believes his worth lives in being indispensable is the most profitable asset he will ever hold. I knew a man like this, sharp, genuinely gifted, the kind of mind that finds the answer everyone else walked right past. He spent 15 years being the most valuable person at 3 different companies. 15 years. And at the end of it, he had a good reputation, a fine salary, and almost nothing he actually owned. His skill made other people wealthy. Every problem he cracked became someone else's asset. He built empires for men who couldn't have done a tenth of what he did. And he walked out with a salary and a thank you. What made it worse is that he knew, on some level, he always knew. He'd watched the owners make calls he disagreed with, calls he could have made better, and he'd comfort himself with the thought that at least he was the real talent, the one who actually understood. He held that like it meant something. It didn't. Being right and being rich are not the same thing. The owners weren't paying for his correctness. They were profiting off his willingness to be the smartest man in the room who never once thought to ask for a piece of what he was building. His intelligence handed him the small pleasure of feeling superior and quietly stole the hunger that might have set him free. That's the competence trap. You mistake being good at the work for winning the game. But the work was never the game. The work is what they put in front of you so you don't look up and notice who owns the table. So, how do you get out? You stop measuring yourself by how skilled you are and start measuring by how much you own and control. You stop asking, how do I become more valuable to them? And start asking, how do I build something that captures value for me? You take that same competence you're so proud of, and instead of renting it by the hour, you point it at building structure, an asset, a business, a piece of ownership, anything that keeps producing whether you show up or not. Here's a way to feel the difference. 2 men, identical skill, identical minds, standing side by side on day 1. The first spends 10 years becoming the best in the building, masters everything, becomes the one they can't function without. The second spends those same 10 years building something small that he owns, clumsy at first, earning less than the first man's salary for years. Now run the clock forward. The first man is exhausted, irreplaceable, and still asking permission to take a week off. The second man owns a thing that pays him, a thing that grew while he learned, a thing he can sell or scale, or hand to his kids. Same starting line, same raw ability. One pointed it at being chosen. The other pointed it at being free. That one difference in direction is the whole game, and it compounds for decades. This doesn't mean quit tomorrow and burn it all down. That's not strategy. That's a tantrum. It means a quiet shift on the inside. You stop being a craftsman who happens to want money and become a strategist who happens to have a craft. The skill stops being the destination. It becomes the fuel. You start treating the job not as a place to prove yourself, but as a place to pull out capital, skills, and relationships and feed them into something you own. The job becomes a means. It was always supposed to be a means. The trap was ever believing it was the end. Because here's the cold version. Competence makes you useful to powerful people. Ownership makes you one of them. And being useful never quietly turns into being powerful. That conversion never happens by accident. You have to choose it, on purpose, against every instinct screaming at you to keep your head down and just be the best. Now, stay with me. Because the moment you understand the competence trap, your intelligence is going to do something completely predictable. It's going to agree with all of it, nod along, find it brilliant, and then do absolutely nothing. It's going to file this away as one more thing you understand, instead of one more thing you act on. And that reflex, that smooth, reasonable, intelligent reflex to study instead of move, is the second trap, the one that's stolen more wealth from more capable men than failure ever has. Sit with that for a second. We're taught to fear failure as the worst thing, the thing that ruins you. But failure is recoverable. And more than that, failure teaches you something. It hands you a real lesson in exchange for the pain. The next trap is more dangerous precisely because it never hurts. It never gives you the sharp correction failure does. It just lets you drift, comfortable, well-read, year after year, until you look up one day and a whole decade is gone, and all you've got to show for it is the unshakable certainty that you understood everything perfectly and somehow never did any of it. That's exactly what we're getting into next. And somehow never did any of it. That's exactly what we're getting into next. Trap number 2, the preparation trap. This one was built specifically for you, for the mind that needs to understand a thing before it touches it. And it's so well disguised as a virtue that most intelligent men live inside it their whole lives, convinced the entire time that they're just being careful. Here's the trap. You've learned to swap preparation for action, and you can't tell the two apart anymore. You buy the course. You finish the book. You watch the breakdown, the case study, the analysis. You open 17 tabs and read until your eyes ache. And every time you do, your brain hands you the same little reward it would give you for actually doing something. You feel like you're moving. You feel productive. You feel close. But you haven't risked anything. You haven't built anything. You've just rearranged information inside your own skull and called it progress. And the smarter you are, the better this feels, and the more justified it seems. Because learning is your strength. It's the one place you reliably win, so you keep retreating to it. When it's time to actually do the thing, time to put something real on the line and find out if you're right, you flinch. And you flinch toward more research, one more book, one more analysis, one more month of getting ready. You tell yourself you're being thorough. You're not. You're hiding. You're hiding in the one room where you always feel competent, because the room where you might fail scares you half to death. It's the difference between the man who reads 100 books on swimming and the man who gets in the water. The first can describe the stroke perfectly. He'll lecture you on technique and history and the physics of it, and he'll drown faster than a child because he has never once done the thing he understands so well. Machiavelli had a brutal line about this. He said, "Fortune favors the bold." Everyone quotes that part and conveniently stops. The deeper point was about timing. He believed the men who act while a situation is still uncertain are the ones who capture it. The men who wait for certainty show up to find the thing already taken. By the time you have enough information to feel completely safe, the moment that made it worth anything is gone. Certainty and opportunity move in opposite directions. The clearer it gets that something will work, the more crowded and worthless it already is. But the intelligent man hates that. He hates acting without knowing. Uncertainty feels to him like incompetence. And incompetence is the one thing he's spent his entire life organizing himself to avoid. So he waits, he prepares, he gets ready to get ready. And he calls his fear by a respectable name, due diligence. I lived in this trap for years, built it out of my own intelligence, brick by careful brick. I had business plans I never launched. Ideas I researched into the ground until there was nothing left of them but a folder full of notes and a faint sense of loss. I told myself I was being smart, avoiding mistakes, waiting for the right moment. The right moment never came. And the cruelest detail is, I could have told you all of this back then. I knew the theory. I'd read the same warnings I'm giving you now. I could have nodded along to every word and gone right back to my folder of notes. That's the trap closing its jaws. It doesn't just stop you from acting. It lets you understand exactly why you should act perfectly in high resolution, and then keeps you sitting still anyway. Understanding becomes the consolation prize you accept instead of the life. The right moment is a story your fear tells you, so your paralysis feels responsible. There is no green light. There's only the cost of waiting, stacking up quietly, in the dark, while you read. And here's the part that should sting. While you were preparing, dumber men were acting, making the obvious mistakes, failing in small, recoverable ways. And every one of those failures taught them something no book could. Because real feedback only comes from real contact. You cannot learn to do a thing by understanding it. You learn it by doing it badly, then less badly, then well. The man who acted and failed 10 times is 10 lessons ahead of you. And you're still on chapter 1. Highlighting, there's a specific addiction underneath this, worth naming plainly. It's an addiction to certainty. The intelligent man has come to believe he should never move until he's sure, because being unsure feels like being exposed, and being exposed feels like the opposite of being smart. So he chases the feeling of certainty the way other men chase money or women or status. He wants to know it'll work before he risks a thing. But the world doesn't hand out certainty in advance. Certainty is something you earn on the far side of action, never before it. Demanding to feel sure before you move is like demanding to be a strong swimmer before you'll get in the pool. The order is backwards, and that backwards order is exactly what keeps you dry and drowning at the same time. Knowledge without execution isn't wisdom. It's expensive entertainment. It feels like investing, but it works like consuming. You can spend a decade becoming the most informed man in your circle and have nothing to show for it but a head full of frameworks and a life that never changed shape. And the cruel twist is, you'll be respected for it. People will come to you for advice. They'll treat you as the wise one, the one who really gets it. And you'll give them genuinely excellent guidance on a game you were always too scared to play. The brilliant commentator who never stepped onto the field. They'll mistake your knowledge for success. And you'll let them, because it's the only reward this trap ever pays out. So how do you break it? You change what you reward yourself for. Right now, your brain gives you a hit of pleasure for learning. You have to retrain it to only fire that reward after you've acted. Set a rule. For every piece of information you take in, you take one action in the real world. Read one chapter. Make one call. Finish one course, ship one thing. However small, however ugly. You force the learning to earn its keep by chaining it to motion. Picture the man who wants to start something of his own. He spends 6 months researching, compares every option, reads every guide, studies everyone who made it and everyone who didn't, builds spreadsheets, maps out scenarios, and the whole time he feels like he's working incredibly hard toward his goal. Now picture the man next to him who, in those same 6 months, just started, badly, launched a clumsy version, got rejected, adjusted, launched again, found his first customer by colliding with the market directly. At the end of 6 months, the first man has a plan, the second man has a business, and 6 months of real scars that taught him things the first man can't even picture because they only exist on the other side of doing it. The researcher will tell you the second guy got lucky. He didn't get lucky. He got information the only way information about the real world is ever delivered, by touching it, and you have to make peace with looking stupid. This is the real wall for intelligent men. Acting before you fully understand means doing things badly, in front of people, and your whole self-image is built on being the one who does things well. You'd rather stay safe and capped than risk being seen as a fool. But that fear of looking foolish is the most expensive luxury you'll ever buy. It costs you your entire potential, and you pay for it in installments. Every year, you don't move. The man willing to be a beginner, willing to be bad, willing to act before he's ready, will pass you so completely that in a few years you won't be in the same conversation. Not because he's smarter, he isn't. Because he was willing to turn understanding into motion while you stayed in the library, getting ready for a moment that was never going to announce itself. Pause. One question. What's the thing you already know how to do, that you've been researching instead of starting? You know what it is. You've known for a while. The information was never the missing piece. The willingness to move, while uncertain, was, name it. Then keep going. Because the next trap is the one that catches you even after you finally start moving. Trap number 3, the salary trap. Say you've slipped the first 2. You're not just a craftsman anymore. You're thinking about ownership. You're acting instead of endlessly preparing. Good. Now comes the trap that looks the most like winning and quietly guarantees you never actually do. The salary trap is the belief that the road to wealth is a bigger paycheck. That if you just earn more per year, climb higher, negotiate harder, you'll eventually reach freedom. And it's the most seductive lie of all, because it's wrapped in real progress. The salary really does go up. The numbers really do get bigger. You can watch yourself advancing, and the whole time you're walking faster and faster down a road that doesn't go where you think it does. Here's the mechanism. A salary is the price of your time, and time is the one thing you can't make more of. There are only so many hours, and only so much energy to fill them. So the moment you tie your income to your time, you've dropped an invisible ceiling over your entire financial life, no matter how high the number climbs. You can be the highest paid man in your field and still be poor in the way that counts. Because the second you stop trading hours, the money stops. That's not wealth. That's a well-decorated dependency. The intelligent man falls for this hard, because he's good at the game it offers. He can earn the credentials, climb the ladder, position himself for the next promotion. He's playing on the highest difficulty and winning, and he never once stops to ask whether winning this particular game leads anywhere at all. He's a world-class runner on a treadmill, congratulating himself on his speed. 2 men. One earns a high salary and spends his career pushing it higher. Every year, more comes in, and every year, more of his time belongs to the thing that pays him. The other earns less, but takes the surplus and buys things that produce income without him. A piece of a business, assets that pay him, systems that run while he sleeps. 10 years on, the first man is still running, quietly terrified of the day he has to stop. The second man has built a second income that doesn't care whether he shows up. One of them is free. The other just has a nicer cage. Machiavelli understood borrowed power versus owned power. He warned rulers never to lean entirely on forces they didn't control, because the day those forces walked away, the ruler was helpless. A prince relying on another man's army wasn't powerful. He was permitted. He lived at someone else's mercy and called it strength. Your salary is another man's army. It feels like your power. It's his permission. And permission gets revoked in a single meeting on a single ordinary afternoon. And then all your competence and all your years mean nothing. This is why wealthy people seem so calm about money, while high earners seem so anxious. It isn't the size of the number. It's the source. A man with a quarter of your salary, but real ownership, sleeps better than you do, because his survival isn't chained to his next performance for someone else. He's separated his income from his effort. You haven't. You're one bad quarter, one reorganization, one new boss away from finding out exactly how much power you actually had. Which was none. You had a wage, and a story you told yourself about security. And here's a pattern that confuses almost everyone until they finally see it. Some of the worst wealth builders alive are enormous earners. The doctor, the lawyer, the senior executive. People pulling in serious money who hit 50 with shockingly little to show for it. How? Because the salary was so big and so reliable, they never felt any pressure to build anything else. The trap was so comfortable, they never tried the door. A man on a modest income at least feels the squeeze. feels the need to find another way. The high earner feels nothing but the smooth, numbing flow of money that arrives every month and vanishes into a life built precisely to swallow it. He's the most trapped man of all, and the last to figure it out, because everything about his situation whispers that he's winning. The cruelest part is what the rising salary does to your head. As it climbs, your appetite climbs with it. We'll get into that next. But understand the core of it now. The bigger paycheck doesn't free you. It binds you tighter, because now your whole life is calibrated to require it. The higher the salary, the more impossible it becomes to ever walk away and build something of your own. You've made yourself too expensive to take a risk. You've earned your way into a more golden, more inescapable version of the cage. So what's the way out? You stop worshipping the income statement and start worshipping the balance sheet. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you own. Two different universes. The salary trap keeps your eyes locked on the first, while the wealthy quietly stack the second. Make a hard rule. Every rise in income gets converted, at least in part, into ownership. Not lifestyle, ownership. Things that produce, because a raise that becomes a nicer apartment is gone forever. A raise that becomes an asset starts working for you and never stops. Sit with that, because it's the hinge the whole thing turns on. Two men earn the same. One ends each year having spent it on a life that looked good, and he's exactly as wealthy in December as he was in January, which is to say, not at all. The other ends each year owning a little more than before, a small stake, a piece of something, a stream that pays him whether he works or not. After 1 year, you can't tell them apart. After 5, you start to notice. After 15, one of them is free, and the other is still trading his mornings for permission to exist. And the strange thing is, they earned the exact same amount the whole way. Nothing separated them but what they did with the surplus. One burned it for warmth. The other built an engine. You start to see your salary for what it really is. Not the goal, the raw material. It's the capital you use to buy your way out of needing a salary at all. The man who spends his whole paycheck, no matter how large, has turned his life into someone else's profit. The man who spends it on ownership is using the trap as a tool to escape the trap. Same income, opposite endings. And notice what this does to how a raise feels. To most men, a raise is permission to spend more, a bigger life, a reward for the climb. To the man who's woken up, a raise is ammunition. It's not a better cage. It's a louder set of bolt cutters. Same envelope, same number, two completely different reactions. And that difference in reaction is the whole difference between the man who retires owning something and the man who retires with a gold watch and a quiet, private grief he never quite finds the words for. Now, here's what happens next, and it's the most insidious turn of all. Even when an intelligent man starts earning real money, even when he finally has surplus that could become ownership, something reaches in and quietly drains it before it can ever compound. And it doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like reward. It feels like the thing he earned. And that word, earned, is the whole secret. Because the surplus doesn't vanish into stupidity or bad luck. It vanishes into a need so old and so deep that he almost never sees it working. He thinks he's making rational choices about how to enjoy his success. He isn't. He's answering a question that's been following him since childhood. And every dollar he spends answering it is a dollar that will never set him free. That's the fourth trap. And it runs on the one part of you your intelligence has never been able to control. Part of you your intelligence has never been able to control. Trap number 4. The proof trap. This one lives below your intelligence. In the part of you your reasoning has never quite been able to reach. The proof trap is the need to demonstrate your worth through what you own. And it's especially vicious for intelligent men, because intelligent men carry a specific wound they almost never admit to. You spent your whole life being told you were exceptional, and somewhere along the way, the world started measuring exceptional in a currency you couldn't ignore. You were supposed to be the smart one, the one who'd make it. So when the money finally starts coming, there's a quiet, desperate pressure to make it visible, to prove the promise was true, that all that intelligence added up to something the world can see and respect. So you buy the proof. The car that says you made it. The watch that announces your arrival. The address, the dinners, the lifestyle that confirms to everyone, and mostly to yourself, that you are not the disappointment you secretly fear you became. Every purchase is a small argument against an accusation nobody actually said out loud. And here's the trap. Each of those purchases doesn't just cost what you paid. It costs everything that money could have become if you'd let it compound instead. You're not buying objects. You're selling your future to quiet an insecurity in your present. This is what destroys high earners, not low income. Lifestyle rising to swallow whatever shows up. The raise comes, and within months it's invisible, absorbed into a slightly bigger life that feels normal almost instantly. You make twice what you made 5 years ago, and you're no freer than you were then, because every increase got eaten by a matching increase in what you decided you deserved. The treadmill didn't slow down. It just got more expensive to run on. And the intelligent man does this with real sophistication. He doesn't think he's being vain. He builds elaborate justifications. The car is an investment in how clients see him. The address is about proximity to opportunity. The expensive things are tools, leverage, necessities of his position. His intelligence, again, doesn't save him from the mistake. It just hands him a more convincing story about why the mistake is actually strategy. Machiavelli would have seen straight through it. He understood that visible power invites attack, that the man who flaunts his strength makes himself a target, while the man who hides it keeps it. He noticed that the truly secure rarely needed to perform their security, and that showing off was usually the tell of a position weaker than it looked. The loudest displays of wealth tend to sit on the most fragile foundations. Real power is quiet. It has nothing to prove and everything to protect. Look at what actual wealth looks like, not the performance of it. The genuinely wealthy are often invisible. The man with the modest car and no debt and a portfolio quietly compounding has more real power than the man performing success on financed everything, one slow month from collapse. One of them owns his life. The other rents the image of a life and pays interest on the illusion. And from the outside, the man renting the image looks like he's winning. That's the whole tragedy. The proof trap pays you in the appearance of victory while it strips out the substance. I fell into this one myself, and it humiliated me to see it. When money started arriving, I felt this pull I couldn't explain. To upgrade, to show, to mark the occasion of my own success. And underneath it, when I was honest, was a boy who'd been told he was special, and was still, decades later, trying to produce the evidence. The spending was never about the things. It was about a question I'd never answered. Am I actually as exceptional as they all said? I remember the exact purchase that broke it open for me. It wasn't even a big one. I caught myself a few seconds from buying something I didn't want, in a moment when no one was watching, and I asked myself who it was for. And there was no one, no audience, no client to impress, no rival to beat. Just me, alone, about to hand over money to feel for about a week, like the promise had been true. That was the day I understood I wasn't shopping. I was negotiating with a ghost. No purchase ever answered it. Because the question wasn't financial, it was a hole, and I kept pouring money into it, and it stayed exactly as empty as before. That's the thing about the proof trap. It can never be satisfied because the spending is aimed at the wrong target. You buy the thing, the relief lasts a week, the baseline resets, and you need the next thing. You're trying to fill an internal absence with external objects, and the math of that is infinite. There's no amount of proof that finally settles it, because the insecurity isn't responding to evidence. It's responding to a story about your worth that no possession can rewrite. And it gets worse, because you're not running this race alone. The moment you buy the better thing, you walk into a new arena full of people with even better things, and the bar jumps again. The car that felt like a rival last year is the bare minimum once you're surrounded by people with more. So you reach for the next rung, and the next, and you discover the ladder has no top. There's always someone with more, always a higher tier to feel small against. And the proof trap will happily chase that horizon until the day you die, spending everything you ever earned to win a contest that was rigged from the start to never end. The only way to win it is to step off the track. To decide your worth was never something to be measured against other men's possessions in the first place. So, how do you escape? You cut your identity loose from your possessions completely. You decide, on purpose, that your worth is not on the table, not up for debate, not riding on what anyone, including you, can see. And from that settled place, money stops being a way to prove something and becomes a tool to build something. The man with nothing to prove can let his money compound because he doesn't need it to perform. He can drive the modest car and feel no smaller because his sense of himself isn't parked in the driveway. This is the discipline of living below your means. Understood right, it's not about deprivation. It's about refusing to let an old wound spend your future. Every dollar you don't spend proving yourself is a dollar that goes to work, making you genuinely, structurally free. And freedom, the real kind, the ability to walk away, to say no, to never need anyone's permission, is worth more than every object you could buy to impress people who aren't even thinking about you. Pause. Be honest. What have you bought? Or what do you want to buy that's secretly an argument with someone about your own worth? You know the purchase. Now, name the person you're really trying to convince. It's almost never who you think. Usually, it's a younger version of you, still waiting to find out if he mattered. Hold on to that, because the last trap is the one your pride will defend the hardest. Your pride will defend the hardest. Trap number 5, the lone genius trap. This is the final cage, and it's the one your intelligence is most invested in keeping you inside because it's the most flattering to your image of yourself. The lone genius trap is the belief that you can and should do it all alone. That depending on other people is weakness. That asking for help, sharing control, building on other men's effort is somehow beneath you, beneath the standard of a man who can just figure things out himself. It comes from a real place. You've spent your life as the most capable person in most rooms, so you learn to trust only yourself. Other people slow you down. They make mistakes you wouldn't make. They don't see what you see. So you do everything yourself. Build alone. Decide alone. Carry it all alone. And you take a quiet pride in needing no one. That pride is the wall around the smallest possible version of your life. Because here's the brutal arithmetic of wealth. It's built through leverage. And leverage means multiplying yourself through other people. Their time, their capital, their skills, their networks. One man working alone, however brilliant, is capped at one man's output. You cannot outwork a system with your own 2 hands. The wealthy don't win because they're smarter than everyone they hire. They win because they understood early that the job was never to do the work. It was to organize the efforts of many people pointed in one direction. They became the center of a structure instead of the entirety of a struggle. The lone genius refuses all of it. Won't delegate because nobody does it as well as he does. Won't partner because he doesn't want to share control or lean on someone who might let him down. Won't raise capital because he wants it to be entirely his. Won't sell because selling feels like begging and he's too proud to ask anyone for anything. And so his whole empire is the size of one exhausted man. And he calls that integrity. It isn't integrity. It's ego wearing the costume of self-reliance. And it'll keep him small forever. Look at the delegation part. It gives away the whole disease. He won't hand off a task because someone else would do it at 80% of his quality. To him, that's a downgrade, a compromise he can't stomach. But he's running math a wealthy man would never run. He's comparing the other person's 80% to his own 100, when the real comparison is one task done by him against 10 tasks done by 10 people, while he builds the thing only he can build. The genius perfects a single brick. The builder accepts slightly rougher bricks and walks off with a cathedral. The man who insists on laying every brick himself, flawlessly, dies with a beautiful pile of stones and calls it a life's work. And the relationships, the part he waves off most carelessly of all. He thinks networks are for people with no real skills. That schmoozing is what the mediocre do because they've got nothing else to offer. He is catastrophically wrong. The relationships aren't a substitute for the skill. They're the multiplier sitting on top of it. A brilliant man no one knows, no one trusts, no one wants to help, is worth a fraction of an ordinary man surrounded by people who open doors for him. Opportunity doesn't travel through merit. It travels through people. And the man too proud to build real alliances has cut himself off from the single most powerful force in the entire game. Then congratulated himself on his independence while he starves outside rooms he was more than qualified to enter. I held this trap longer than any of the others, because it was the one that felt most like a virtue. I was proud of doing it alone. I thought needing no one made me strong. What it actually made me was small and tired and capped at exactly my own capacity, which, however good, was still just one man's. The day I finally let other people in, the day I started multiplying myself through their effort instead of guarding my little kingdom alone, was the day it started to scale. The first time I handed something off, I hovered, I checked it twice, I rewrote half of it the way I'd have done it, and it took me an embarrassingly long time to notice that the hour I spent rewriting was an hour I didn't spend on the one thing only I could do. The control I was so proud of wasn't strength. It was a tax I kept charging myself, over and over, for the comfort of never having to trust anyone. It cost me my pride. It bought me everything else. So the way out of the last trap is the hardest, because it isn't financial. It's a surrender of ego. You have to accept that your greatest leverage was never your own brilliance. It's your ability to organize and lift the brilliance of others. You have to be willing to ask, to share, to depend, to sell, to be seen. You have to trade the comfortable identity of the self-sufficient genius for the uncomfortable power of the man who builds with other people. And every part of your pride will fight you on it, right up until the moment you realize the fight was the trap. Now, step back. Look at all five at once. The competence trap, where your skill becomes your cage. The preparation trap, where your learning replaces your living. The salary trap, where your income masquerades as your wealth. The proof trap, where your insecurity spends your future. And the lone genius trap, where your pride caps your entire life. Look at the thread running through every single one. In every case, the trap isn't your weakness. It's your intelligence, pointed the wrong way, used to build a beautiful case for staying exactly where you are. That's what I needed you to understand from the start. Your mind was never the problem, and it was never going to be the answer all by itself. A sharp mind is a blade. A blade builds nothing on its own. Turned inward, on your own excuses, it carves gorgeous reasons to stay still. Turned outward, on ownership, on action, on leverage, on being seen, it cuts you a path almost no one else can follow. Same blade. The only thing that ever mattered was which way you pointed it. And here's what nobody warns you about being smart. It buys you time to be wrong. The dull man hits the wall fast, feels the pain, and changes course because he has to. You don't. You're clever enough to keep the whole broken arrangement running for years, patching it, explaining it, optimizing the inside of the cage until it's the most comfortable cage anyone's ever built. Your intelligence doesn't ring the alarm. It silences it. That's why some of the most capable men you'll ever meet wake up at 50, genuinely brilliant and genuinely stuck, having spent 4 decades being far too smart to notice they were losing. So here's where I leave you. Not with motivation, not with comfort. With one question, and I want you to actually answer it, not just hear it. Which one was yours? You already know. One of these landed harder than the rest. One of them you've been quietly arguing with this whole time, building the rebuttal in your head, explaining why yours doesn't really count. That defensiveness is the map. That's the one. Name it. Because the man who can name his own trap has already done the one thing the trap was built to prevent. He looked straight at it, instead of through it. Most won't. Most intelligent men will find all this interesting, agree with every word, feel a flicker of recognition, and then walk right back into the exact patterns they just watched me describe. Because understanding a cage and walking out of one are two completely different acts. And the second one costs something the first one never does. But a few of you won't go back. A few of you are going to take the blade you've been turning on yourself for years and finally point it at something real. Today, while it still stings, before the feeling fades and the excuses regroup and tomorrow quietly becomes next year. You're the reason this exists. And let me be straight with you, because you'd see through anything else. Naming your trap won't make you rich. It won't move a single dollar by itself. What it does is smaller and far more important. It ends the lie. It takes away the one thing the trap has always needed to survive, which is your refusal to look directly at it. After today, you can't claim you didn't know. You can choose the cage, but you can't pretend it isn't one. That's the whole gift, and it's a heavy one. If something here cut deeper than you expected it to, that wasn't an accident. And it isn't the end of the thought. There are layers underneath this, the real mechanics of leverage and position and power that one conversation can't hold. So if you mean to be one of the few instead of one of the many, stay close, keep sharpening, and decide, right now, before you move on with your day, which man you're going to be, the one who understood everything, or the one who finally moved, who understood everything, or the one who finally moved.